I passed the CPA exam in 6 months and you can too. In today's video, I'm going to give you the 5 tips that helped me along the way. I sat for the exam in late November of 2009 and I took my last test in May of 2010. It took me about 6 months between exams and it was really about 4 to 5 weeks of study before the first exam, so it was really closer to 7 months total but 6 months between exams. I'm not an overachiever. I didn't have great study habits. I was never a straight A student. The reason I give you that little backstory is that whenever I hear a story about how someone did something quickly, they usually leave out all the advantages that they have. So tip number 1, realize that there's no shortcuts. So I searched and I wasted a ton of time trying to find a silver bullet, something that would help me get through this exam quickly. However, there just isn't, so just stop wasting your time. However, I would recommend that you spend money on quality study materials if you can. I use Becker and I highly recommend them. If you can't afford Becker, you can use another provider, just find one that has good reviews and run with it. Tip number 2, find personal efficiencies. By the time you earn enough credits to sit for the exam, you absolutely have what it takes to be a CPA. My first exam was FAR. I studied a ton and I fared pretty well. I actually scored an 89. However, I had a sinking feeling that if I had to do that much studying again 3 more times, I'd drive myself crazy. Then I remembered what one of my professors said. He said, think of it like an ocean of material that's only 3 feet deep. So I had a thought. So if I scaled my study time back a little bit, I'd have more free time and I'd have less stress. Tip 3, skip topics. So I know what you're thinking. Skipping topics sounds insane and you're probably right. So before I go any further, let's just make one thing clear. If you practice public accountancy, you have to be a master of your craft. Prison is definitely not a walk in the park and you owe it to the public to know your stuff. However, in the context of this exam, your objective is to pass 4 sections with a 75. Think of it like playing a prevent defense. There are points you can leave on a table and still be successful. So when I identified a couple of topics that really gave me problems, I just moved on. I figured there was a good chance I'd miss them on the exam no matter how much I studied, so why not use that time to focus on stuff that I was stronger in or stuff that I was just on the cusp of getting. So remember, there's an ocean of material, so the likelihood of getting multiple questions on your struggle material is pretty low, unless you're just that unlucky. I decided to take a loss on 3 to 4 questions and really focus on the other stuff. Now, this strategy honestly doesn't leave much room for error. If you're not careful or, like I said, simply unlucky, you could put yourself in a bind. But I tell you what, it made my life a heck of a lot easier and I wasn't close to failing any of the exams. Tip 4, note cards. I never developed great study habits in high school or college, but when I got to grad school, I knew that something had to change. So I tried reading the material, doing homework questions, but the material just wouldn't stick. I tried buying pre-made note cards, but the verbiage wasn't written in a way that I would really grasp or retain. Then I decided that I would try making my own note cards, and I knew immediately that this would work. And obviously, there's no secret to why this works, right? You're more likely to learn something if you write it down, and you're more likely to remember it as well. So my exact strategy was to go through the online lecture, and again, I use Becker, and just follow along. I'd write what they told me to write, and just not a single thing else. Then I would go back and make note cards, topic by topic and formula by formula. Whatever acronyms they came up with, I would rewrite them in my language, something that I knew I could remember. Now, I came up with a crap ton of note cards. I'm talking hundreds of them. I had them by the stack. The most important part of this process was the sheer number of touches that you're able to get. So I kid you not, I had these note cards on me at all times. I would grab a stack every day and I'd have them on me wherever I went. Didn't matter if I was at the grocery store, barbershop, red light, waiting for a doctor, picking my kids up in the school pickup line. I always had a stack on me and I always was going through them. Even at my desk at work, I would just have a stack next to me. As I was working throughout the day, I would just flip through the note cards, every 10, 15, 20 minutes. The first few times that you do try to go through the note cards, it's going to take time and it's going to seem like it's not worth it. However, keep going. The strategy is to truly to be able to recall information on a dime because that's how the exam is. So you don't know what question is coming, but the minute you can identify what topic the question is going for, you can easily figure out what's missing or what angle the tester is looking at. When I got to the point where I could fly through the note cards or almost see the note card in the back of my mind, I moved on to the homework and practice questions. And it was like night and day. I'd read a question and immediately recognize what the topic was, and I could visually see the note card in my mind. At that point, it was just plug and play. Tip number 5, understand that time is not your friend. I've seen countless people go through this process over the last 15 years, and I can tell you without a doubt that the ones who had tight deadlines fared better. It's not simply wanting to pass within a certain period of time, it's actually having to pass. The ones who were semi-serious or didn't attack the exam with ferocity generally didn't finish, or they took a long time to get done. They ended up taking sections more than once because they failed, or even worse, they let credits expire. Now, I can't think of anything worse than passing a section and then having to retake it. So, and I'm sure you've heard the quote before, necessity is the mother of all invention, and I couldn't agree more. When I was going through it, I had no choice but to pass. Failing just it wasn't an option. I had kids to feed, I had a bonus on the line, and there was actually a job offer in the works. So, almost every person that repeated a section or didn't pass had one thing in common. They didn't attack or adhere to a strict schedule. Set deadlines, schedule your tests, stick with the plan. Unfortunately, you're going to miss parties, functions, and other stuff. There's just no two ways around it. However, the quicker you get done, the quicker you can get back to your normal life. So, those were the 5 things that really got me through the exam quickly. As you can see, there's nothing earth shattering about it. Ultimately, you really need to focus on what works for you. There are going to be articles, and there are going to be people who say you have to do it a certain way, but obviously, take that with a grain of salt. I would suggest trying multiple strategies and go and see what sticks. So drop me a comment on what worked for you because I'm curious to know what you did. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out and subscribe if you like what I'm doing.